Shark, and someone was telling me who to give the screen to.
Yeah, hi Sylvia. That's Yusuf from Team Shark. Maybe Ayub is going to share his screen while I'm speaking at the beginning.
Okay, so let me find Ayub. Yeah, there you are.
Ayub, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. We can see your screen now.
Okay, fine. Do you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I'm Yusuf from Team Shark, and I'm going to present you what we've done so far at the Hackfest. Next slide, please, Ayub. Okay, thank you. So we implemented all the tasks that were specified into the pad, and also we've added some extra tasks because we started to work with the Helm charts at the beginning, and then we moved on to the Juju charms to be able to execute the day 1 and 2 and implement the auto scaling at the upgrade of the IMF. So our first task was to try to deploy OpenAir interface on micro Kubernetes using the Helm chart. So we've done it on Monday and Tuesday. Then we deployed OpenAir interface using Juju charms with OSM on Thursday afternoon. And also at the same time, we also tried to set up Helm charts for OpenAir interface with open source MANO just to test the deployment of OpenAir interface with OSM. And that was before we moved on to Juju charms for day 1 and 2. Then we implemented the scale-up operation of the Gnode B and also the upgrade of the IMF. So Ayub, next slide, please. So basically for task 1, what we've done, we've cloned the repository of the OpenAir interface. We've set up the static IP addresses. We've modified tags into the values.yaml configuration file. And we also changed the data network to try for the NS network/subnet instance formation. And we've deployed finally all the components onto Kubernetes and validate that everything was working right before moving to the deployment of OpenAir interface using Juju charms with OSM. So what we've done, we've used the current version of Juju because we had small issues with that. We've successfully deployed the OpenAir interface packages all without open source MANO, and then we've deployed it using open source MANO. There is a small demo, but we're going to show you a little bit later. And also, as I said before using Juju charms, we've also tried to deploy the OpenAir interface using Helm charts. And when we understood that we couldn't use the Helm chart to do day 1 and day 2, we've moved on to Juju charts. Okay, so for the scaling operation, what we've done, we've altered the VNFD file on the open source MANO interface, and we've made the scale up manually using the CLI. But this is part of the demonstration, and Ayub is going to give the hand to Ayub, and he's going to show you what we've done so far from task 1 to 3.
Thank you, Yusuf. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Ayub, we can hear you.
So I will show you the demo for the Nchart part and everything we have done here. Here we can see. Here we can find the Nchart packages and the first step after git clone and that we started to modify the packages. For example, here for IMF, we deployed our images locally with micro Kubernetes registry here, local registry, and for quickly accessibility. And we fixed the IP address of NRF here. I can't see. Here. And the same in fix the IP address here in manifest deployment. And after deploying that, and also the same for other packages, and after deploying that here, in namespace team chart, we can check the IMF logs. And here we can see that we have our G-Node connected and user equipment connected. And I will test the ping to Google from the user equipment pods. And here you can find that the ping is Google .fr, and afterwards for the OSM parts here, we created the packages for these end charts, and we created a public repo here, and so that OSM can detect it in public. We have added this repo with the command OSM repo. You can find. Sorry. Here. And this repo will be detected with OSM, and in VNFD packages here, for example, for MySQL, we can call that public repo for this end chart. And now we can see the deployment, for example, for MySQL is done successfully. And it's the same thing for other components or open your interface. Here, for example, NRF, here, etc. Here, IMF, and etc. For the deployment with the Juju char, we as we can do day 1, 2 with nchart, we switch it to Juju char for the deployment Juju char. We could do the day 0 with OSM and the scale part 2. We did the scale up for the G-Node B, and here is the result for deployment with Juju char. And here for scale from OSM, we can see the code, and we can see also the result of scale here. And that's all for the day 0. And I will hand the floor for Olivier Grémy to see in the next demo for day 1, 2 parts for the aided charm, which modifies the IMF code.
Okay, thank you, Ayub. Sylvia,
okay.
may I share my screen now?
Yes, there you go.
Okay, for take 4, we had to automate an upgrade of IMF. So in order to do that, we have updated the code for Juju Charm. And then we have updated the VNF descriptor. And then I will show you a demonstration in, not in OSM, using Juju of how you can do that. So first, sorry. Here you can see that in the charm code we have added an action.yaml in order to describe the action to modify the OAI image, and then we have modified the code for the charm in order to react to an action telling to modify the RMF image. So yesterday we discussed about that, and you told us that it's not so easy to change the parameter of the pod, and what will be enough will be to stop the container. So when the event is detected, we log that we have put a new image, and we access to the container of the IMF, and we stop the container, and we say that the update of image is not yet authorized. Just the only things to add here is that you have to add this to increase the size of this observer mapping to map the action to the handling function. So when you do that, so you can work on your charm and then build the charm with Charmcraft and deploy it in Juju. And for example, with the command Juju action, you can have a look at the action that has been added. So here you see that we have an action modify OAI MF image. You can even have a look at the parameter. Excuse me. I have the same command history as you. Here you see the show action give you the parameter, and then you can issue a Juju command. So then you put the name of the command. The parameter. So there's the ID of the action in Juju, and you can see that he has tried to install, or he was planning to install the tag of IMF called image2, and that he did not perform. In order to integrate that into open source MANO, we have also prepared excuse me. Yeah, in the VNFD, we have added the descriptor for the handle of the action. So it's the same action that you have seen before, the modify OAI IMF image with its parameter. And for example, if you run this action without parameter, it will set back again the initial container. So that's for the demo of this upgrade of IMF. Yeah, this was shown. So just to summarize what we've done during the Hackfest, the difficulty and how we solved them. So we had during task 1, we had some issue with JSON in YAML text that has to be inserted in the deployment.yaml file in order to set the static IP address. For task 2, so it took us some time to show that to detect that we were not using the good version of Juju, and because Juju was complaining about the format of the metadata, and since we had installed Juju.5.8, and when we moved to 2.9, it solved the problem. With task 2bis, we had followed the way of using mcharts, but as Ayub said, it is limited and does not allow you to make day 1 and day 2 action. For the scaling, we had no particular issue, and for task 4, we had some difficulties due to the lack of knowledge in the charms and to find the good information in the charm documentation, and in particular how the charm can interact with a cube container or pod. So if we had more time to do the demo, we would have liked to add some day 1 action in order to check that OpenAir interface is properly working. And for that purpose, we have written some script in order to automate the way to view the log. So we have a small script to check that the SMF is connected with the UPF, that the SPI gateway is working well, that the G-Node B is connected, and then we have a script to connect to the user equipment container and to try to ping Google. What we would have like also to do is to add some action in order to interact with the database. For example, to dump the database, to add an IMSI in order to have more than 4 user equipment allowed. And we would have also like to interact with the G-Node B and its configuration, and for example, instantiate different slice at 5G level. To conclude, we found in our team that we had a very interesting hacking week. We learned the deployment of the OpenAir interface 5G core. We could investigate and practice automated development of this part of code using OSM. And we understood the power of Juju bundle for deployment, and also the ease of use, because you can just refer to the container image you want to deploy, and then the logic between the module can be implemented through relations. So what we take away from this week is that OSM is a good tool for open source deployment of network services, that there are lots of benefit from other projects, open source projects like Juju, Charmcraft, all this charm templating language, and that we could benefit from a great platform for experimentation with the 2 VM that were allocated to our team. And just we are now open for any question, and if our code, we put it on external forge that where we have access. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olivier. So we do have 8 minutes for questions.
Okay.
Any question for Team Shark? Okay, so I guess everything was crystal clear. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think so, yeah. Now, thank you to all of us for hosting this Hackfest.
Okay, so our last